What's poppin', man? Hello? Oh,
I should unmute myself.
yeah, might be a good idea.
I don't know if I want an Egyptian on this stream.
So how's life? I asked for.
Things are okay. Did I tell you I dropped a bunch of my classes?
You mentioned it in the Torah stream.
Okay. Yeah, I dropped a bunch of my classes, and now I'm no longer drowning, which is good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in favor of not drowning.
Yep. Me too. How's the cat? How's the dog?
So better now that I have better flea medication because apparently, I was not aware of this, but most of the fleas that animals in the United States have are indigenous to cats. And so cats are a more favored host.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently I wasn't doing a good enough job keeping the fleas dog and cat.
Mm-hmm.
But now that that's been saved, that's been fixed, they're doing a lot better. They're both doing well. I could tell Happy was having an allergic reaction to something. I didn't know what it was. I guessed fleas, but then I used the flea medication that always worked, and it didn't clear up. And then finally I went to my doctor, and he's like, yeah, cat fleas are harder to get rid of than dog fleas, and you need to step up your game. So I bought very expensive flea medication, and now no problem.
Perfect. Yeah.
Which reminds me, I should give them their next dose. It's been almost a month since we went to the doctor. Okay, your turn.
My turn on my life. I don't know what's going. Yeah. I don't know. I'll probably try out Cal State Long Beach. I made it quite clear to the parents that, it's like my decision or whatever.
I just don't understand why you think Cal State Long Beach is going to be different from UCLA. Like, what's the difference? You weren't not doing well because it was too hard. Like, if you were a bad student, yeah, like, oh, I can't make it at UCLA. I would be like, okay, but like, that's not what was going on.
I think it was just because I did not want to do chemical engineering, and I had no idea like what I wanted to switch to, and like how to switch or whatever.
Okay, and at Cal State Long Beach, are you gonna know what you want to do?
No, but I made it clear that I'd just be trying out stuff,
And you can't try out stuff at UCLA?
Well, I didn't know how to.
Speaking of not knowing how to, what happened with that thing you mentioned that I won't mention unless you want to mention?
Which one? What, the lady asking me out or what?
Yeah, the lady asking you out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I should probably text her.
You're so mean.
Yeah.
That poor girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard that. Yeah.
This is not the first time you've done this either.
Yeah. This is really my bad. Well.
I mean, these poor girls throwing themselves at you, not realizing what a putz you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. I hit like 185 pounds.
Shadow, tell him he's supposed to be nicer to the ladies.
Yeah, I probably should. Yeah.
I don't
I'm
know
not.
why. You know, this is very unchristian conduct of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, have you been going to church?
Vespers and Tasbeha.
And Tespa.
Yeah.
Huh.
Not so much liturgy.
I see.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
I don't know, man.
I don't either.
I think it'd be a giant mess. You know?
What would be a giant mess?
Like,
I have zero clue what it you are referring to.
don't worry.
I won't worry.
I
If
don't
you
think
want to have a private conversation, we can have a private conversation. That too, you know. By the way, this goes for anybody watching this. If you want to have a private conversation with Jacob, you can have a private conversation with Jacob. I don't know why you would want to do that, but don't feel like you have to come on the stream just to have a private conversation with Jacob.
I don't believe in privacy.
Bullshit.
Well, no, yeah. Well, reason it would be a giant mess is I don't think the parents would like it, and I think
Are we talking about?
about going to liturgy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm like wondering what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you're not going to liturgy because your parents wouldn't like it.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's I don't know. It's too reverent for me.
It's too reverent for you.
Yeah.
For the 2 years you were a catechumen and everybody was saying, "Hey, Andrew, are you a deacon yet?" Before you were even baptized. I could pull up the picture of your baptism.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cute picture. You were all dressed in white.
Mm-hmm.
And you had that nice ribbon around you.
Mm-hmm.
And there was that 7-year-old kid who turned to his dad and said, "Where's the baby?" And his dad said, "The baby's big."
Mm-hmm.
6'4".
Yeah.
That's a big baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I should go to confession. I have no idea how to do confession, man.
You should go to confession.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'm not sure Rabbi Mullet agrees with me. Rabbi Mullet, do you think Andrew should go to confession? Chag Sameach, Rabbi. For the people who did not know, today is the third day of the Passover. Oh, wow! You guys get to all watch me actually do a mitzvah. I should be covering my head when I do this. Baruch! Well, I should be more serious when I do this as well. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sefirat haomer hayom shnei yamim laomer. Today is the second day of the Omer. And what we do is after, it says in the Torah, mimacharat haShabbat, from the day after the Sabbath. And that Sabbath, of course, is the first day of the Passover. You count 49 days. And on the 50th day, it is Atzeret. It is, usually gets translated by Christians as Pentecost. And so we count each day. And I am 46 years old, and I have yet to get through an entire Omer of actually counting every single day. Rabbi says, Andrew should read Rashi commentary to Micah 6:8. Let's read the Rashi commentary to Micah 6:8. What do you think, Andrew? You want to read the Rashi commentary to Micah 6:8?
Go for it. Go for it.
Let's see what Micah 6:8 says. Micah. Not Malachi, Micah. There's Micah. 6. Oh, I forgot to show the screen. Okay, 6 and 8. Higid lecha Adam ma tov u'ma Hashem doresh mimecha. Ki im asot mishpat va'avat chesed v'hatznea lechet im elokecha. He has told thee, O man, what is good. What does the Lord require of thee? But to do justly and to love true loyalty. That's how they translated chesed, loyalty? Okay. And to walk humbly with thy God. Now let's see what Rashi had to say on this. Commentary, Rashi, and just for you, it's in English. Higid, he has told, the Holy One, blessed be he, has told you what is good for you. V'hatznea lechet, and to walk discreetly. Jonathan renders, walk discreetly in the fear of your God. Another explanation, and walk discreetly. The standard of flesh and blood is not like the standard of the Holy One, blessed be he. The standard of flesh and blood is, if one man embarrasses his fellow and comes to placate him, the fellow says to him, I will not accept your apology until so-and-so and so-and-so, before whom you disgraced me, come. But the Holy One, blessed be he, desires only that the man's return to him be between the two of them. From Pesikta, the Rav Kahana 163b. So that's what Rabbi Mullet says. And Rabbi Mullet says, I do not endorse Safaria's translation. Yeah, this is actually, it's the Koran Jerusalem Bible. Yeah, I don't like that translation either. But I'm guessing the the Judaica Press translation. Let's translate it ourselves. בהצלחת לכת תרגום יונתן הווה צנועה למחך בתחילה דבר אחר והצנע לכת לא כמידת הקדוש ברוך הוא מידת בשר ודם. מידת בשר ודם אדם מבייש את חברו ובא לפייסו ואומר לא איני מתרצה לך מתרצה לך עד שיבוא פלוני ופלוני שבזתני לפניהם אבל הקדוש ברוך הוא אין חפץ אלא שישוב אליו בינו לבין עצמו. Yeah, that's how I would have translated this. Yeah, it's all right. So Rabbi Mullet has spoken.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So, Rabbi Mullet, how you doing? What else do you want to talk about, Andrew?
Mm,
The chesed equals loyalty thing is weird. Yeah. Yeah. Ahavat chesed? Oh.
I don't know.
Who let
Who's
Trevor on my channel?
I don't know.
I don't know. Some crazy Zionist, I bet. Maybe Zed Lex. So, how you been, Jacob?
Good. I was trying to listen to your stream from last night. I still haven't listened to it.
Okay. Sound quality not the best, but, you know, I thought it was good. It was very woke, just so you know. Very, very woke.
Probably was.
I said, like, neurodivergent like 20 times.
Probably did.
That's very neurodivergent of you.
Wow. Low blow. Actually, low blow.
Okay, I'm sorry. I saw you smiling though.
Yeah, I did. So, what do you think of this whole modern religion stuff?
Oh, I haven't listened to. I listened to a little bit of Sam talking to that guy, but I wasn't even interested in that.
Yeah, it was too for me.
Who like? I mean, I think. Well, let's see what Rabbi Mullet has to say about confession. The point is, don't go to confessional. Come directly to the Almighty. He's waiting to hear from you and wants that relationship, that intimacy with you. Rabbi, while I generally agree with you, I actually think going to confession is one of the healthier Christian religious practices.
Mm-hmm.
Because Christians don't have a lot of good instruction in how to understand sin, and I've seen like Christians are so hung up. They're so like, especially because of a lot of the stuff Paul writes, like.
Yeah.
Christians think like God hates them.
I mean, I don't know. You know what? I'm not even gonna argue with this. You know. I'm not even gonna argue this. All I'm just saying is look at the story of Job.
What about the story of Job?
Have you seen Bart Ehrman's commentary on it?
I have not seen Bart Ehrman's commentary on it. No.
Well, you know, He says, the Satan is just a guy, and in reality, God just basically like gaslit Job at the very end, and he just basically murdered his whole family for fun.
See, this is where I have to disagree with Rabbi Mullet. He says that's why Christians should steer clear of Christianity, and I think until we have a reasonable alternative setup so that Trey can be his true Noahide self,
Yes, of course.
we should. It's better for Christians to not steer clear of Christianity, right? Because that tends to be far worse than when they steer clear of Christianity. By the way, when are you going to Israel? You canceled?
I mean, we'll see, isn't it? It seems hot now. The block is hot.
It really isn't. Like, I guarantee you, if you go,
Hmm.
you're not gonna notice anything. Funny enough, last night I was. Rabbi Mullet says Rabbi Breitowitz doesn't agree with you. I am not sure about that. I would love to see where exactly and how exactly you think, because I'm pretty sure I've heard Rabbi Breitowitz say the opposite. Um, um, in fact, I am pretty sure recently in a Q&A, Rabbi Breitowitz said, "Oh, what did you write? That there's no negative there. That's why Christians
Ooh.
steer clear of Christianity. I don't get it.
Oh, Rabbi, did you see
Oh,
what?
doesn't disagree with me. Oh, yeah, he doesn't disagree with me. Yeah. Well, that's partially like because when Rabbi Breitowitz says, I generally just change my mind because Rabbi Breitowitz.
Quick question for the rabbi. Did you see what Yosef posted about the historical Moses?
I don't. Rabbi Mullet isn't on Discord.
Okay. There was.
And what Yosef posts is squarely within Orthodox Judaism.
Okay. Hey, Rabbi, he said that basically the Exodus didn't happen as described, and that
As
it's fine,
described.
and that it's not trying to convey actual history, and that there probably was a few slaves that left some form of Egypt. And there was two Orthodox people saying you could be Orthodox and believe that, and he said, yeah, there's a
You
chance
can be
Moses didn't
Orthodox and
exist.
believe that. You can be Orthodox and believe that the number 600,000 at Sinai was not literal.
Yeah. Let me find it. Let me find the link. This is too funny.
Rabbi, this is the. Don't make me send you to Rabbi Breitowitz again.
It is.
Me nauseous.
I'm opening up Spotify.
I didn't say.
Orthodox Conundrum is the episode, or it's a podcast.
Yes, Orthodox Conundrum. It's an Orthodox podcast.
I'm sorry for giving the rabbi a heart attack.
Rabbi says, I'm making a macha, which means he protests.
Oh, okay. I thought he was like sending a guy over to take care of him.
Yeah, I guess that's the link.
Yeah, sorry. I should have posted it on my own. It doesn't really work like that.
What
I don't know. I thought it was interesting, at least how he handled it. I'm not trying to make the rabbi angry, but because I respect him. He's a cool guy. Teach people Hebrew. Good stuff. So Israel, should I go? Should I not go?
Oh, So last night at the Seder, I went to the Seder at USC.
Yeah.
And actually, my advisor from undergrad was there.
Mm-hmm.
The rabbi says, "Chas v'shalom," to say such a thing. Rabbi,
Is that like saying you're cursed or like?
no, chas v'shalom
I-
means God forbid, basically.
Oh, okay.
He says people should not say such things. He disagrees very much adamantly with the idea that the 600,000 number in the Torah wasn't literally 600,000. I think that while I am perfectly fine with it, no, see, okay, Rabbi, I expected better from you because this is what Trey
I like
says.
you, Rabbi. This is what I do. Yeah, this is what I do.
This is what Trey says, and Trey doesn't have a Talmudic mind, so he doesn't understand what the difference is between saying that if you don't take that it is not outside the possible dalet amot of halacha, the 4 cubits of halacha, to say that when the Torah describes things, it is not describing them. Yes, it is not describing. You can say that it is not describing them in literal terms, in modernist, like the way we think of historical things. That's yes. And frankly, I have to say, Rabbi, I think in many ways you are a little hyper literalist of the Torah. And we've had this before. Like, I think you remember that the discussion we had about whether or not someone is can remain an Orthodox Jew and believe that the story of Abraham was figurative, which I mean it in all the best ways, Rabbi.
Oh, hey,
And Chezi's here.
oh, so he'll tell me about Israel.
So I'll go back to talking about Israel. So he had a trip to Petra.
Yeah.
October 22nd.
Yikes.
And he still went. And he said it was great and it was safe and it was perfect. And Chezi says, looking forward to seeing you. And frankly, I mean, if you were going to Petra, I would be like, maybe not go to Petra. Like I have been saying to people, I don't think it's a good idea to go to Bethlehem or go to Nazareth. Like, you might not. I mean, if you want to be incredibly, like, if you're very worried, you might even not go to Haifa, but like, I wouldn't even worry about going to Haifa if I were you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I haven't canceled my flights and I still have the hostel, so I haven't canceled anything. Okay.
Says Jacob is tormenting Rabbi Wallet.
I'm actually torturing him. I put this curse upon him. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So Rabbi Mullet says, yes, I remember what Rabbi Breitowitz said, but I'm extremely uncomfortable with this, and I think it is a slippery slope, and it's easy to go too far, and I cannot accept that what you are suggesting is acceptable. So Chezi's keeping you in Jerusalem, so.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I mean,
Chezi, you should take him. I mean, I guess, but like if it was me, I would probably take him up to like Tiberia and down to whatchamacallit, and go down to the Dead Sea. He's got to see the Dead Sea. He's got to go surfing in the Dead Sea.
I don't think you can surf in the Dead Sea.
You can definitely surf in the Dead Sea. Do you know why you can surf in the Dead Sea? Because you can basically stand on the water in the Dead
Oh yeah, but that's not.
Sea. There's no waves.
Yes, that's also the point. Yeah.
there is no waves, but it is so salty. Let's put it this way: make sure you don't have any cuts in your skin before you get into the Dead Sea.
Yeah, but it's good for your skin though. Yeah, I mean, I did want to go to Petra, but I don't even think I could navigate that trip because it's like a 4-hour bus ride, and like I'd have to stay there, and yeah.
Yeah, Petra, and there's the thing. Shabbat in Jerusalem is beautiful. Chazi, is he staying by you for Shabbat? Or I guess, I mean, he's a Gentile, but people will get weirded out if he's like taking a cab to your place.
Taking a cab to your place. Well, I will be in Jerusalem, so.
Yeah, you don't understand how this
I don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah, cars are a no-no.
On Saturday?
From Friday night to Saturday night, yes.
Okay. Right.
And there's no public transport.
Right. But walking is not a thing?
Well, walking is a thing. Actually, Jerusalem's pretty small, but like walking long distances, you don't want to be walking long distances, and especially in. Well, I don't know if it's going to be so hot in May, but okay. Apparently, okay. He thinks it's fine. I don't know which neighborhood he lives in. He probably lives in a neighborhood where people drive.
I don't know. I just know that I'll be getting Hezi dinner. That's my only goal. Somehow, some way. Yeah.
So Rabbi he's very uncomfortable with the idea that the author of the Torah didn't mean all the stuff he said, and it was really just like kind of, but mostly made up, exaggerated. Okay,
well, actually,
that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, and what I clearly do believe, is that the Torah dibra bet lashon bnei adam, that it speaks in the manner of human beings, and that it has multiple things to say at the same time, and to communicate those things, it has to be in a finite form, which is, it has to be. So nobody likes this example, but it means a lot to me, so I'm going to give it anyway. So when we talk about the sun rising and the sun setting, right? Now, there are plenty of people who like start talking about whether or not the sun revolves around the moon or the moon revolves around the sun. The fact is that when we are actually talking about the sun rising and the sun setting, we're not even talking about the sun moving around the sun at the earth moving around the sun at all. We are talking about the earth spinning on its axis. So like what most people understand about the earth moving around the sun has nothing to do with whether it's day or night. And if you understand modern physics, you understand that all motion is relative, right? So like, I don't expect the Torah to have explained the relativity of motion when it's described. I didn't say that the Exodus is a euphemism. I'm saying that the description of the Exodus is what exactly occurred as it is told in the Torah is not the same thing as if you put a GoPro on Moses's forehead, you would see exactly what you think it's describing. That's not the type of book that the Torah is. Your example is not comparable to the narrative of the Exodus.
I don't think this is gonna go anywhere, but I'd like to ask the rabbi another question. This could not land at all, but I'm curious. Why do you rap to film around Jewish atheists?
Well, I don't know how much Rabbi Mullet does that. Rabbi Mullet, do you put on tefillin with Jewish atheists?
Or like
All
Jews who are
the-
not practicing as they should be?
Oh, like nobody practices Judaism as they should be.
Right. Okay.
So, like, who are you to say this person, like that's just not a thing in Judaism.
Right. But you get what I mean. Like somebody who, like, either by the way they dress is making like direct points that they do not believe in Judaism.
And Rabbi Mullet is correct that this is a
Okay.
projection, but that's not what you mean. I'll give you a better example of what you're trying to ask. On Yom Kippur, it is forbidden to wear leather shoes. And if someone comes to synagogue wearing leather shoes and buys an aliyah to the Torah, right? So he's coming to the synagogue wearing leather shoes, and he deserves an aliyah to the Torah, which is probably the one thing in which we are most strict on. No, we're not going to let you, as a notorious sinner, have an aliyah to the Torah, which is to get called up to read from the Torah. Okay? Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, very, very well respected in all parts of Orthodox Judaism, said that because that person wants to go up to the Torah, we see that it's obvious the fact that he's wearing leather shoes is merely out of confusion. And if you can nicely explain to him that he should take his shoes off and not go up to the Torah wearing the leather shoes, you should try to do so. But sof kol sof, at the end of all things, you can call such a person up to the Torah. Now that is the most egregious. I mean, that person is sinning as they are being called up to the Torah, right? Mm-hmm. And Rav Ovadia says you still call him up to the Torah. And this is on Yom Kippur, and it's in public, and it's like, so like our understanding is very, very different. Like Rabbi Mullet says, Judaism is not an all or nothing system.
Right. And then I guess another question, Rabbi. So some of the people are going to say, like, I think the evidence is enough. But I guess the question I ask you is, like, what do you think is a better convincing thing to sort of go into, like, a historical conversation?
Please.
What? What?
Chezi, like, in trying to defend, like, says the most heretical things, which makes me, like, nauseous. And I'm trying to, like, trying to stand between Chezi and Rabbi Mullet is maybe the most difficult thing I've ever tried to do. Yes, Chezi, you are absolutely wrong. All of the 5 books of Moses comes from Moses, and that is not negotiable in any way. My God. There are many reasons to recommend the donning of tefillin, even or especially for otherwise non-observant. Too much to write here. Thank you, Rabbi. Glad to hear you're a Chabadnik.
What do you think is a better argument to say that, like, I may not have all the responses to your questions, but I think you should do this because it is like a better life if you do so. And like convincing them from the real rather than trying to convince all these historical facts. Like what's more important to Rabbi?
Oh, you mean like would Rabbi Mullet put tefillin on someone who believes that like the Exodus didn't exactly happen as exactly it said? I am pretty sure that's not even a question in Rabbi Mullet's mind.
He's gonna say no.
No, he would definitely put on tefillin with such a person.
Right, but yeah, okay. Then we're in agreement then. Like, right, I think isn't the question, Rabbi, like if it works, if the explanations work for some, but if it doesn't work for others, we should probably give the effects of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's like 5 different conversations happening all at once.
Okay.
So let me. Okay, Rabbi, as I have tried to say many times before, I view like the 13 principles of Jewish faith as the thing that I am most makpid on, and I try to be like, and frankly, I think that the study of the 13 principles is incredibly important and much neglected, unfortunately, in Orthodox Judaism. That is one of my most bitter criticisms of Orthodox Judaism. I believe I've said this to you before. So I am very, very. If there's nothing else that I'm makpid in my life, it's the 13 principles of faith, and I really am. I try to be as makpid on them as possible because, like, that's that. As far as I am concerned, that's my chelek in Torah. Like, and frankly, I think that's placing my priorities correctly. With that said, Chazi, for the love of God, stop helping. It is not negotiable that the 5 books of Moses are from Moses. Oh my God! Please don't do that. And yes, the rabbi is right. 13 principles of faith. And Trey, the rabbi apologized to you if you're still there.
No, I don't think we're arguing. I'm just like honestly.
No.
Curious.
He's busy arguing with Chazi and me and stuff. So like, it's not exactly like it's weird. We're having 5 different conversations at once, and Andrew's wondering if he's ever going to call that poor girl back.
Oh my gosh. These other girls with this person.
I think. Why is he so mean to the girls?
Me?
Andrew.
Yeah.
He is so mean to the girl.
I have to scare them as much as they scare me. It's like
you're. This is not very Christian behavior of you, Andrew.
Yeah, I get you. Don't worry. I don't know. I don't
know. Chazi, this is where the 2 of us part ways. The 13 principles are the 13 principles, and they are incumbent on all Orthodox Jews, and that is how we define Orthodox versus non-Orthodox Jews. Tension of faith.
Pop on. Stop
yes, Rabbi, I completely agree. If you're outside the 13 principles, you're outside Orthodox Judaism for all intents and purposes, at least in the framework of this conversation, I agree 100%. The 13 principles of Jewish faith are not negotiable.
So, is it a public declaration? Like, if you start going around to everybody in the synagogue saying the 13 principles are wrong, the 13 principles are wrong, but what if you confess to the rabbi, I don't believe in these 13 principles, but I'm going to keep showing up to synagogue?
You don't get it. Like, if you can show up to synagogue and start saying the 13 principles are wrong, everybody's just going to say, oh, okay. Like, that's your opinion, man. Like,
Right.
nobody's gonna like kick you out of synagogue or anything like that.
Right. That's kind of the important part, right? Like, it's about what you do, not what you believe.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
So, like,
I don't know, but I completely understand why the rabbi's arguing over this.
no, I mean, I think the 13 principles are insufficiently emphasized within Orthodox Judaism. And to some extent, maybe we should, in fact, be a little bit more careful about the 13 principles than we are. I think in reaction to Christianity, we have really adopted this whole orthopraxy thing over the orthodoxy thing. And Judaism is a creedal religion, and if somebody is outside the creeds, we should in fact pay more attention to that and be stricter than we are. At the same time, I don't think people study I don't think people study what our beliefs are enough. You look bored, Andrew.
A little bit. I figure, like, if the conversation's so important, they should just pop on,
That might actually be a good point, but I'm pretty sure Rabbi Mullets is probably busy doing all kinds of things. He just finished 2 days of Chag, and Passover is very draining, and he's probably, I am guessing, cleaning the house while he's listening to this, which is why he's not jumping.
Okay. So the conversation isn't that important,
His wife not cutting his head off is probably the most important thing. Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And if he spends the night after 2 days of Chag, talking on the phone on the internet with random people, oh well, he's actually lying in bed. Okay. But he probably spent the last 3 days, at least, being very, very active. Chazal left an opening with the last few verses of the Torah, and who wrote them? You completely misunderstand that. I'm sorry, Chazi, but you're completely misunderstanding that. That the fact that maybe Moses didn't physically write those last few verses doesn't change that it is the Torah of Moses. And yes, and I would agree with that as far as, yeah.
This is another question I have. Do you think religion can be successful past the physical?
What do you mean?
So the discussion that David Sloan Wilson had with Sam, I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't.
Highly recommend it. I recommend the work of David Sloan Wilson. He's an evolutionary biologist who sort of talked about that religions are evolutionary mechanisms. And he said the religion of the future is one that is able to pretty much, I think it's beat the scientific. So I think beat the scientific, still be spiritual, and still be communal. Those are the three things that,
What do you mean by beat the scientific?
or also be scientific. He says also be scientific.
Where's my halachic man?
I know you're gonna go on that page, right? I agree.
Yes, note 4. Yes, where's my halachic man?
But
Halachic man.
it's
Jacob's greatest hits. Halachic man, note 4. You want to read it or should I read it?
this is besides the point.
It is not at all beside the point.
Well, okay, actually read it, and then because then I'll need to continue with my point. But yeah,
Even though Kierkegaard, and it is Kierkegaard apparently, sorry,
yes,
disagreed with Hegel's philosophy from beginning to end, and made it the object of his fierce, stinging attacks, he nevertheless accepted from him the dialectical principle, with many significant changes to be sure. And this concept of the dialectic, which he and Karl Barth introduced into the analysis of the unfolding of the religious consciousness. And this view concerning the antinomic structure of religious experience, which was revised and refined by Rudolf Otto in his book, The Idea of the Holy, give the lie to the position that is prevalent nowadays in religious circles, whether in Protestant groups or in American Reform and Conservative Judaism, that the religious experience is of a very simple nature. That is, devoid of the spiritual tortuousness present in the secular cultural consciousness, of psychic upheavals, and of the pangs and torments that are inextricably connected with the development and refinement of a man's spiritual personality. This popular ideology contends that the religious experience is tranquil and neatly ordered, tender and delicate. It is an enchanted stream for embittered souls and still waters for troubled spirits. The person who comes in from the field weary, from the battlefield and campaigns of life, from the secular domain, which is filled with doubts and fears, contradictions and refutations, clings to religion as does a baby to its mother, and finds in her lap a shelter for his head, and the nest of his forsaken prayers. And there is comforted for his disappointments and tribulations. This ideology is partially embedded in the most ancient strata of Christianity, partially rooted in modern pragmatic philosophy, but mainly it stems from practical utilitarian considerations. The advocates of religion wish to exploit the rebellious impulse against knowledge, which surges from time to time in the soul of the man of culture. The yearning to be freed from the bonds of culture, that daughter of knowledge, which weighs heavy on man with its questions, doubts, and problems. And the desire to escape from the turbulence of life to a magical, still, and quiet island, and there to devote oneself to the ideal of naturalness and vitality. This Rousseauian ideology left its stamp on the entire Romantic movement, from the beginning of its growth until its final tragic, with an exclamation point, manifestations in the consciousness of contemporary man. Therefore, the representatives of religious communities are inclined to portray religion in a wealth of colors that dazzle the eye as a poetic Arcadia, a realm of simplicity, wholeness, and tranquility. Most of the sermons of revivalists are divided in equal measure between depicting the terrors of hellfire and describing the utopian tranquility that religion can bestow upon man. And that which appears in the sermons of these preachers is in a primitive, garbled form, at times interwoven with a childish naivete and superficial belief, is refined and purified in the furnace of popular philosophy and theology, and becomes transformed into a universal religious ideology which proclaims, if you wish to acquire tranquility without paying the price of spiritual agonies, turn on to religion. If you wish to achieve a fine psychic equilibrium without having to go first undergo a slow, gradual personal development, turn on to religion. And if you wish to achieve an instant spiritual wholeness and simplicity that need not be forged out of the struggles and torments of consciousness, turn on to religion. Get thee out of that country. This is a sarcastic, bitterly sarcastic rereading of the Jewish understanding of how God speaks to Abraham, which is filled with anxiety, anguish, and tension, and from thy birthplace, which is so frenzied, raging, and stormy, to the land that is enveloped by the stillness of peace and tranquility, to the Arcadia wherein religion reigns supreme. The leap from the secular world to the religious world could not be simpler and easier. There's no need for a process of transition with all its torments and upheavals. A person can acquire spiritual tranquility in a single moment. Typical of this attitude is the Christian Science movement. It would appear to me that there is no need to explain the self-evident falsity of this ideology. First, the entire romantic aspiration to escape from the domain of knowledge, the rebellion against the authority of objective scientific cognition, the authority of objective scientific cognition, which has found its expression in the biologistic philosophies of Bergson, Nietzsche, Spengler, Clages, and
last Thursdayism.
What?
Well, last Thursdayism.
What
How do I know those? How do I know those medical tests are accurate? Well, last Thursdayism.
You don't understand at all what I mean. What I mean when I talk about last Thursdayism. You think that I am denying science, and I would never do that.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying you can use it that way.
Okay, you can use anything to your own.
No, but that's fine. When you throw epistemics out the window, you can do whatever you want.
Correct.
Anyways,
if you throw epistemics out the window,
I would say last Thursdayism
out the window.
Okay. Anyways, continue.
And their followers, and in the phenomenological, existential, and anti-scientific school of Heidegger and his coterie, and from the midst of which there arose in various forms of the sanctification of vitality and intuition, the veneration of instinct, the desire for power, the glorification of the emotional, affective life, and the flowing, surging stream of subjectivity. The fact he wrote this in the 1940s, the man was a prophet. The lavishing of extravagant praise on the Faustian type and the Dionysian personality, etc., have brought complete chaos and human depravity to the world. The man was a prophet. And let the events of the present era be proof. And he said this 80 years ago. The individual who frees himself from the rational principle and who casts off the yoke of objective thought will in the end turn destructive and lay waste the entire created order. Therefore, it is preferable that religion should ally itself with the forces of clear, logical cognition, as uniquely exemplified in the scientific method. Even though at times the two might clash with one another, rather than pledge its troth to beclouded, mysterious ideologies that grope in the dark corners of existence, unaided by the shining light of objective knowledge, and believe that they have penetrated to the secret core of the world. And second, this ideology is intrinsically false and deceptive. That religious consciousness in man's experience, which is most profound and most elevated, which penetrates to the very depths and ascends to the very heights, is not that simple and comfortable. On the contrary, it is exceptionally complex, rigorous, and tortuous. Rigorous and tortuous. Where you find its complexity, there you find its greatness. The religious experience from beginning to end is antinomic and antithetic. The consciousness of homo religiosus flings bitter accusations against itself and immediately is filled with regret, judges its desires and yearnings with excessive severity, and at the same time steeps itself in them, casts derogatory aspersions on its own attributes, flails away at them, but also subjugates itself to them. It is in a condition of spiritual crisis, of psychic ascent and descent, of contradictions arising from affirmation and negation, self-abnegation and self-appreciation. The ideas of temporality and eternity, knowledge and choice, necessity and freedom, love and fear, the yearning for God and the flight from his glorious splendor, incredible, overbold daring, and an extreme sense of humility, transcendence, and God's closeness. The profane and the holy, etc., struggle with his religious consciousness, wrestle and grapple with each other. This one ascends and this descends, this falls and this rises. Religion is not, at the outset, a refuge of grace and mercy for the despondent and desperate, an enchanted stream for crushed spirits, but a raging, clamorous torrent of man's consciousness, with all its crises, pangs, and torments. Yes, it is true that during the third Sabbath meal at dusk, as the day of the rest declines, and man's soul yearns for its Creator, and is afraid to depart from that realm of holiness whose name is Sabbath, into the dark and frightening secular workaday week, we sing the psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters," etc. And we believe that with our entire hearts in the words of the psalmist. However, this psalm only describes the ultimate destination of homo religiosus, and not the path leading to that destination. For the path that eventually will lead to the green pastures and to the still waters is not the royal road, but a narrow, twisting footway that threads its course along the steep mountain slope. As the terrible abyss yawns at the traveler's feet, many see the Lord passing by, and a great and strong wind rending mountains and passing by, and shattering rocks. And after the wind, an earthquake, and after the earthquake, a fire. But only a few prove worthy of hearing the still small voice. Out of the straits have I called, O Lord. Out of the depths I have called unto thee, O Lord. Out of the straits of inner opposition and incongruities, spiritual doubts and uncertainties, out of the depths of a psyche rent with antinomies and contradictions, out of the bottomless pit of a soul that struggles with its own torments, I have called. I have called unto thee, O Lord. And when the Torah testifies that Israel in the end would repent out of anguish and agony in your distress, when all these things are come upon you, and you will return unto the Lord your God. It had in mind not only physical pain, but also spiritual suffering. The pangs of searching and groping, the tortures of spiritual crises, and exhausting treks of the soul purify and sanctify man, cleanse his thoughts and purge them of the dust, the husks of superficiality and the dross of vulgarity. Out of these torments, there emerges a new understanding of the world, a powerful spiritual enthusiasm that shakes the very foundations of a man's existence. He arises from the agony, purged and refined, possessed of a pure heart and new spirit. It is a time of agony unto Jacob, but out of it shall he be saved. From out of the very midst of the agony itself, he will attain eternal salvation and redemption. The spiritual stature and countenance of the man of God are chiseled and formed by the pangs of redemption themselves. Have I read this enough times?
You have.
Maybe not, because obviously it's not obvious to you.
We're not getting to the point, right? Like it's not because he doesn't address any of the criticisms, and he doesn't like. When is somebody completely irrational for believing something? When is it just better to give them to say like, yeah, it is like let's just do the meta modern move. Like
What's
when is
the
that?
modern move?
So that so the pre-modern move is to not sort of like make any arguments, just to say this is the way it's always been. The modern move is to sort of, you know, look at everything, look at all the texts, and sort of make that approach or start making sort of intellectual arguments. And then there's the postmodern move to say, well, this is just my tradition. This is just how I see it. You know, you have your view, I have my view. You know, I'm just going to do it from that. And the meta modern move is to say that, yeah, you know, I don't really have evidence for this. And I am going to choose the tradition. And I'm going to choose this tradition because I like it. And I believe it'll
If
make me a better
that's the
person.
meta-modern move, then it is even more destructive than postmodernism.
Why?
Because it is going exactly according to your intuition. It is the most destructive thing.
I think that, right. So anybody who has an intense religious experience, you think that's not a good idea, right?
No,
Why?
I never said that. Because if it is an actual intense religious experience, then it is a revelation from God. And God is true and real.
Okay. Let's say I think it's beautiful.
An
It's
insight.
beautiful enough that I feel like
Okay.
it could be real.
Trey, an insight is not the same as an intuition.
Then I guess I'm making an insight that I would like this. Like I don't.
An insight that you would like this? Are you kidding me?
I'm making an insight that I think it's beautiful and cool.
So this is
insight.
Trey.
Okay,
This is
I
you.
got it. Okay, fine. I'll
This
make
is
the
you
actual
just
good argument. I'll make the actual good argument.
Absolutely. No, this is you denying the idea that God is real. And I don't care what you call it, pre-modern, postmodern, the whatever. The question is there a reality which asserts itself? And there is a reality which asserts itself. I don't care how steadfastly you believe you can fly. You will fall if you try to fly.
That doesn't. Yeah, then that doesn't work for you as well. That doesn't make any sense.
What do you mean?
I don't care how you say that 600 and blah 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 people could be in the desert. That just can't happen. I don't care how you say that somebody can split the sea. That just can't happen.
Trey, this is partially why I am so big on last Thursdayism.
Right. No. So, but I want to continue on that. Right. So, what Graham Dempsey is saying. So that's not the move Graham Dempsey is saying. Graham Dempsey says, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm perfectly open to, you know, revelation. I'm making this. I'm accepting these things on a modern move." So he gives the example of Jesus's birth narratives, and he says, which is more likely if we're using the idea that, you know, time works well and we have an idea of modernism? What makes more sense? That, you know, different religious communities need to explain Jesus's birth in different ways, or are we saying that, you know, both of these things are true, that two completely different narratives of Jesus being birthed, you know, in Nazareth and as well as in Bethlehem? Like, what makes more sense? And he's trying to use his intuitions to basically say, like, we can ignore those intuitions and we can ignore our, like, understandings of nature. Well, not understandings of nature. We can ignore our scientific method.
You're confusing very different things now.
Okay.
The problem you are describing is a problem that the Gospels are incoherent. And I completely agree. The Gospels are incoherent and nobody should believe in them.
Then I will go with there are two different Genesis accounts.
So that's
Yes.
the thing.
Mhm.
Like, we don't believe there are two different Genesis accounts.
Mhm. Right. Why don't you believe that?
Because how Genesis was read, like, okay, with the Gospels, you have different writers writing different things. The
Right.
5 books of Moses, everyone agrees. Everyone agrees. Every single person but agrees that they were redacted by a single person. Even the most Bart Ehrman agrees that ultimately what is the 5 books of Moses was put together as one whole, one book.
Okay, I'll go with you on that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Eventually, right?
You gotta catch me up.
He believes eventually. I believe it was by Moses. But wherever you put that, it is one thing. The 5 books of Moses is one thing. It's not in any way comparable to the 4 Gospels.
Yeah, but there's one gospel. But anyhow, I don't get how we got on this topic. Why'd we get to the 5 books of Moses?
Because what he's giving is a more complex argument than what we can see on the pages. Like we do agree that there's differences in the Genesis accounts, right? Genesis 1 and 2.
Genesis 1 and 2 are describing what happened in different ways so we can understand them. Let's do something even better. There are 2 descriptions of the 10 Commandments being given at Sinai.
Yes.
And they're not identical.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that tell you?
You can have different points of view to view the same thing? Question mark?
That the editors did not care that there was 2 different ideas.
That's part of it, but even a bigger part of it is it's and we believe, like it says, "V'ra'u et hakolot," they saw the voices. We believe that it was a miraculous event, which is being described to us in miraculous terms.
Right. But
So that's where the pre-modern doesn't go with the modern. Is we don't. This is my disagreement with Rabbi Mullet's what I call hyperliteralism, right? I don't believe that when Moses wrote the 5 books of Moses, I do not believe that he was like, oh, here, I'll write one thing that says one thing, and then I'll write a different thing that says it right next to each other, chapter 1 and 2 of Genesis. It is a composition which is conveying some idea to you.
yeah.
And the truth of that has been miraculously true. In the 1920s, the idea that the world was created was considered religious dogma trying to get into science.
Right, but let's talk about that more, right? Like why was that? It's because we had the sort of fundamentalist fight of the 1900s, right?
Which is, what are you saying?
Where we had liberal scholars going their one way and fundamentalists basically doubling
I'm
down.
talking about the scientists. I'm talking about physicists. Physicists in the 1920s believed that anyone who said the term Big Bang. Do you know who came up with the term Big Bang?
Yes.
Someone who thought it was religious dogma trying to impose itself onto science. So how did Moses 2,000 years ago know that the world had a beginning?
Well, isn't there debates on that? I think that
What do you
it
mean?
says. I've heard that a lot of scholars agree it's when God began to create, or when God was that it wasn't in the beginning. It was when God began.
the idea that the world has a beginning, that there is a historical arc, is uniquely a Jewish idea.
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know why we're viewing the Bible scientifically in the first place. Part of
Right.
part of part of what I'm interested in is the traditional view, not the oldest view, but the view from within a tradition. You know,
Right. But
and I don't know. I've heard some people talk about phenomenology. Other people, you know, disagree. I guess. At the end of the day, the scientific view of the Bible isn't what I'm here for. I think the great thing is that science seems to be getting back to phenomenology. People are realizing that you need you need an epistemology that looks at your ontology, which reflects back to your epistemology, which explains your epistemology, and the 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 sacredness of, or I guess you could say sacramentality of religions is that you engage with them and then they reflect back, they give you insights, they explain the world, which allows you to engage with your religion more. It's
but that's making the meta modern move. Is saying like, oh, I don't really, or actually, I would say
I don't think that's meta
the post.
modern
I would
because
no,
it's
you're
not.
making a postmodern move. You're
Well,
like, yeah, that could be important
I
to.
don't think it's all relative. I think there is an actual reality, but you need a process. You need sacramentality to get to it, and then, right, you know how Vervaeke talks about his glasses, right? He puts on his glasses, he views reality, and then he takes off his glasses to see if there's any smudges. You need that constant process. And when you have religions that can continually offer you insight, it greatly affords that.
But you're not taking it all together. You're saying I'm choosing to live
I'm
only
not
in the
I
phenomenology.
can't take it all together at once. I can't view my glasses and view through my glasses at the same time.
But I'm saying you're
I
like,
have to do
I'm
that
not concerned with the science of it. That is making a choice. You're saying this is
I
my
Trey, I
yes.
am concerned with the science of it, but I want to view through the glasses first before I view the glasses. I want to see where the smudges are before I wipe them away. I want to see the traditional view, the view from within the glasses, before I take them off and analyze the traditional view. At the
Okay,
end of the
okay.
day, at the end of the day, I view this thing a lot more as a process, as like uh, a self organizing system than as a set of beliefs.
Yeah, yeah, I 100% agree with that. I'm agreeing with that in a different way.
How so? Tell me.
Okay. You're gonna
Because I think there's a problem when you explicitly tell me that, oh, this is I'm just doing this because
I'm not saying you're doing this because. When I say you're doing this because?
you're like, oh, let me just abandon the fundamentalist debate, let me abandon the postmodernist view and take this other different view.
Well,
I think
I think it's a question that I wonder as we go forward. Like I think it seems more and more people in the space are asking it. Like say what you want about them, say they're crazy, right? But I think Malcolm and Simone are trying to ask that question. I also think Brendan Graham Dempsey is also making that
what's
question
the question?
of what do we do when our religious traditions can't be logically thought through?
I mean, in some sense, you just have to Well, you don't have to. In some sense, you just place trust in it. I mean,
No,
this is
what
the
do you
thing.
mean
This
that
is the
it
thing
can't
that's
be
been.
logically thought through? What do you mean by that?
What I'm trying to say is that, like, um,
If your religion can't logically be thought through, then it's not a coherent religion, and you should abandon it.
no, or you could say that my
No, you should
presumptions of what the religion is not. It could be what my presumptions of the religion are incorrect.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, that's okay.
The,
You
the,
always have you've always had problems with intellectual humility, Trey.
the reason
Like
why
when
you
you
have
started talking about divine simplicity, like you wouldn't even bother like trying to understand what it was. You're like, this is just stupid.
well, okay.
I, I, no, we could go back and forth on that, but like, I understand what divine simplicity is. I just don't think that um the explanation you're giving is
Okay. Before you guys get into the other different topics,
But anyways, that's
It's
unimportant.
not
I
a different
understand what you're meaning.
continue.
divine simplicity is what all most of Islam, all of Christianity, and Judaism agree
Right.
on.
Right. Okay. Like, but let's. I think rather than giving, I do have an intellectual humility, but I think that what my intellectual humility is like, wow, I to like, okay, to hammer down the Bible, or at least to get it into a place that works, does not seem like a legitimate enterprise. And you're like, oh, you don't have to hammer it down. But what I'm trying to say is to sort of have a coherent view does not seem like a good goal. Like, it does not seem like a good goal to sort of work on these um, presuppositions. And some people may say, like, hey, if I don't have these presuppositions, then there's no point. I think that there's people who would say, like, if you can make an argument aside from the presuppositions that hits closer to home, I feel like that's a more effective argument. Don't you agree?
Do you understand what I mean when I say I don't believe in a God who I can see through a microscope or a telescope? I believe in a God whose existence is necessary for me to look through a microscope or telescope.
Yes, but I'm not talking. We're not talking about the question of God. We're talking about the question.
Yeah,
of
we are.
claims.
No, we are talking because after you establish that you believe in God, then you can start walking your way through religions. He's
So,
right.
well, I mean,
You guys are welcome
I
to
don't.
come over.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Trey, but you seem to make a point that you like brackets around your religion. You like not having a coherent view of your religion.
No. I don't like that.
Okay.
That makes me scared. That's the part that I can't really work out with, where I'm like, I don't think I could construct a coherent view because it just seems like to do it, I would have to sort of prove every institution, or at least like every fact
Do you have
wrong.
a
We're not.
coherent? Andrew?
Yes.
Okay. Trey, do you have a coherent view of C++?
I'll say hesitantly yes.
Yeah, so you understand every little bit about it. You could reconstruct it yourself. You could hammer it out. Any questions people have about C++, you could answer. You don't even have like you have to look at the docs while you use C++, right?
Yes.
Okay, so shut up about you hammering down C++. Yet you still use it and you don't say it's a worthless language.
I agree. I agree that I'm using it, and I'm using the wrong terms. I'll admit to that. I guess. Okay, Jacob, do you think that you could go against like an Old Testament scholar and win. Like you think that you could
What do you
convince
mean?
them against his opinion. So you think you could convince them of Mosaic authorship. You think you could
I
convince them
don't
that
think
the
I could
Exodus.
convince. No, I don't think I could convince him. But I don't think I don't think that has anything to do with whether or not what something is true is whether I can convince somebody who has a particular view of it. Like is whether or not uh, you can fly a question of whether you can convince people that you can or can't. It's a question of reality.
Right, but
Either C++ works or it doesn't. Either it's true or it's not. It's
no, but
useful, it's functional, it's part of life, or not.
no, but you gave me two different definitions.
What do you mean?
You said either it's useful or it's not.
Oh, hold on. Okay. So what you have to understand is by true, I do believe that true includes it must be useful. It must be something. So, like, there are plenty of views of God which I reject simply because if I were to believe, for example, in determinism, right, then there would be no point and it would be completely ridiculous. And so I believe in free will because the alternative is just crazy and unworkable. I might as well just die.
Right. I guess. I mean, I did, but I've been thinking about that question. I do think you can have determinism and free will. It just depends on what you mean by free will.
Oh,
But
yeah, compatible. I mean, I am a compatibilist.
okay. Um.
There's a reason why every religion describes itself as a path, as a road, as
Right.
something you walk down, not as a destination.
Right. I agree.
Okay, so like you're walking down, so that I don't understand what people mean by meta-modern, right? But the
I'm quoting
postmodern,
wrong. I'm quoting wrong.
the postmodern view, which yes, unfortunately you spend way too much time on, is that there really is no reality other than that which you construct yourself. And it's like that's complete bullshit.
I mean, I think you're taking postmodernism to like a crazy level, but I think it's
Unfortunately, we see what postmodernism has led to.
okay. I can't like I don't know where to attack that. For the very least, I think we could both agree that part of postmodern is that everyone has their own perspective,
Trey, are you
and
male?
that everyone has
Trey,
their own
are you
perspective.
male?
Am I a
Are
brain in
you
a vat?
male? What?
Am I a brain in a vat?
You might just be. I don't know.
I don't know. I could be a male, but maybe all my parts were replaced last Thursday. I don't know.
You completely miss what I mean. Like, if you don't want to understand what I'm talking about,
No, because
you
I'm
will
like,
not understand what I'm talking about.
okay. Do you understand why I'm making that point of last Thursdayism?
Yes, it's ridiculous.
No, because you're throwing your epistemology out the window.
I am not throwing my epistemology
All right.
out the window at
Explain
all.
why you're not throwing your epistemology out the window.
Because I believe that the world was 5,784 years and 6 months old.
Mhm.
I have an epistemology.
And then, but you also believe that all your thoughts could be changed by last Thursday.
They could be. I don't believe they were.
But they could be.
Yes, I have. There is a possibility that I'm wrong about everything I believe, Trey. That is definitely possible.
Right, but then why bring that up as an argument against time?
It's not an argument against time. I bring up last Thursdayism as an argument against the literal interpretation people have of what is scientific and what is the age of the universe.
Right, but basically what you're doing is giving to epistemics. So you're asking me for proofs rather than why should I distrust. So why can't I go against the world and basically say things are working for me now, and it seems that you're giving me a crazy idea that is completely against my experience.
You could, and if that's what you believe, you should.
But then last Thursdayism doesn't work.
What are you talking about?
The critique of last Thursdayism only works if you believe you need absolute certainty and that you don't believe that
Look, there.
Yeah.
I am not absolutely certain about anything because I am a human being.
Mm.
I have limited knowledge. There's a reason why when Rabbi Breitowitz says something, I change my mind because I understand that he knows more Torah than I do.
Mm.
That is intellectual humility.
yeah, I that's my intellectual humility saying, yeah, I really don't like I'm not an Old Testament scholar, right? Like I don't really know all these languages. Do I really believe that I could prove them wrong
Okay, what
after
does
they
that have to do with anything? I don't even know what you're talking about. We kind of are, Grizz, actually. Yes,
Trey
fine.
believes in the authority of secular Old Testament
Oh,
scholars
English.
more than the authority of
He's
2,000
what?
several thousand-year-old traditions.
who's this last
Unbased,
Thursday?
Trey. Unbased take.
My question is why does it matter what we believe and not what we do? That's what I'm trying to get at. That's what I'm trying
Trey,
to say. Hey, I don't
Trey-
think these propositions work.
Trey, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong.
Okay, explain.
No,
No.
because it doesn't matter whether I explain. I think you're wrong. Trey, you're wrong.
Cool.
Grizz, do you want to jump on here? Trey, you're just making arguments to make arguments. Like I
No,
don't even understand why you bother.
Okay. I don't feel like maybe I'm not trying to make arguments. I feel like I'm making arguments and they're just failing because I'm not
Yeah, they
smart
are.
enough. And I'm like, well, I could look this up and we could go back and forth. Okay. Let's say, okay, hear me out on this, right? Let's say that you are a German Jew in the 1700s, okay?
Okay.
Okay. And you're talking to all these people and you ask them, hey, what's this Bible thing? And they say, well, it was a complete fabrication by, 5 documentary people, blah, 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 blah. They give you the documentary hypothesis, right?
Okay.
And you're not learning enough to prove them wrong. Everyone around you says that this is true, and you don't have any counterpoints against it. What do you do in that situation?
That depends on you as a person. This is actually Pajot's whole point about your view from nowhere.
Mm.
We are not people out of nowhere. We're actually
Right.
human beings who have to live our lives. And like, what do you do in this hypothetical is he's right. It's not really relevant, right? My question is, last night I had to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to go to the Seder at USC or am I going to go to a club?
Exactly my point. Right? That's what it comes down to. It doesn't come down to the propositions. It's whether you show up to liturgy or not.
Correct.
And you can't.
Or you disagree.
No, it's neither of them. It's a self-organizing system. You guys, come on.
What are you talking about?
It's it's like a process and a destination. It's like, it's like being based and having the will to be based.
In the hypothetical, I know the Goyim believe nonsense because of how I was raised. Okay, Grim. Whatever you say. Man, I ain't saying nonsense. Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. You
You
can't
guys are
make
silly.
that move. You can't make that move and saying it matters what you do. Because you're ignoring a whole other view. You're saying this is not peering to my view, right? Because if you are integrating the modern, right, you would say that it does matter. That the propositions do matter.
Propositions do matter.
Mhm.
But it
But
matters
they
to
would.
me as a human being in my life.
That's postmodern. That's
No,
postmodern.
that
Yeah.
is not
That's
postmodern.
postmodern. That's postmodern.
No, it's not. You're just plain wrong.
Okay, explain to me how it isn't postmodern.
Because
It's
postmodernists
the-
don't believe propositions matter.
Then
I
you're
mean,
combining both of these ideas, and you're
No.
trying to. The
Oh,
modern believe
I am
only the
definitely
propositions matter.
Trey,
definitely a post-nominalist Neoplatonist. I've said that a billion times.
Oh man.
Trey, the beautiful leads to the good, which results in the true.
I definitely am a post-nominalist Neoplatonist. I don't know how many times I've had to say that.
I don't know where you got this idea that pre-modern was like, cavemen digging sticks together or something.
No, I don't think. No. I just don't think any of the concepts or any of the descriptions mattered to the pre-modern. Or no, I don't
What
think
do
a
you
lot
mean?
of. I don't think a lot of them.
What?
That's not true.
Any of the concepts or the what mattered to the pre-modern? You have to say your point again. I didn't get it.
I think that I think the Torah is before history. Before we had the category of history, I think it falls in there. I don't think that they cared about actual descriptions. I don't think they cared about actual people. I think that they cared about how to orient themselves and how to make meaning in this time.
Okay. What's your point?
Meaning that I don't think the writers were like, man,
Meaning is not arbitrary. Meaning
right,
is
yeah,
meaningful.
right. It
So you
approaches you.
can't say that they ignored reality. They had a meaningful relationship with reality.
No, I don't. I feel like you could have meaning without having a meaningful engagement with reality.
I mean, yes, but like, would billions of other people agree with you for several thousand years?
Well, there are a lot of people on TikTok, and
You know,
they are not in the real
okay.
world, and they have me.
I am not in any way endorsing the popularity idea. Yeah, guess what? Most of the world did not agree with Jews for thousands of years. We're still alive.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, survive.
And it's God who decides that.
But it's not the popularity part. Just saying the ideas of beliefs, and that stupid people that people who want meaning over anything else exist.
I have no clue what you're saying.
Right, I'm just gonna read Grimm's comment. Trey, you can either believe it matters what you do, or what you believe. But your belief is just a thought construct that alters what you do.
Thank you.
Okay, so Jacob, you believe that it's not an actual number, right?
What?
The Exodus, when they're describing the 600 blah 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 people, you believe it's not an actual number.
I didn't say that at all. I said that the number, like, if it was 599,999, I wouldn't be like, oh, the Bible's wrong.
Why? Wait, why?
Because I don't think it was written in that way.
Hmm. So why is that move okay?
The same reason it's okay to say 6 million people died in the Holocaust. Like, did exactly 6 million people die in the Holocaust? It wasn't 6,023,000.
Because part of the revelation of the text is how the text is written.
Like, it's a ridiculous idea that you can go into
But-
how detailed something is until you find that it's not detailed enough for you, and therefore it's wrong.
Right, because it is the meaning that's expressed. When we hear 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, it is big number. So that is good enough for us. It means big number. It
Exactly.
doesn't mean whether it was 500 and blah, 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 blah. It just means it is big number, around 6 million, right?
Around 6 million. But
Right,
if it
yeah.
was 1 million, it would be like, hey, why are you saying 6 million?
Okay. So we can both agree that there is a number of Jews who died in the Holocaust, right?
Yes.
And we can say, well, I don't know that number. Like, you can ask how many Jews died in the Holocaust, and we say, we don't know, right? But the meaning of that is now lost. The we don't know makes it so that it's the bad number doesn't exist anymore, correct?
Right. If you say we don't know because we don't know if it's 5,999,999 or 6,000,001, then yeah, you are negating the possibility of understanding.
Right. You agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is more useful to tell the story of 6 million than 599 or I don't
Yeah,
know.
Andrew, your mic's really loud. No, it's I don't understand what you're trying to say.
Just follow me on this,
Yeah.
right? We both agree that saying a rounder number is more meaningful than saying I don't know.
It's not then I don't know. Yeah, definitely. Then I don't know. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. We both agree that it still functions the same, right?
What do you mean it still functions the same?
That whether wait, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna think. That we have now made a move. Oh wait, okay. Okay. We both agree that it's more meaningful. Okay. Now, if we add more to the story, so let's say I said it was, I'm not gonna use the Holocaust because that's too much. But I said, oh well, actually, in the Exodus, each of them had flaming pants, and they were riding around on flaming pants, right? And I give more descriptions than what we actually knew, right? It would be more meaningful. There would be more information packed in there, right?
Only if there's actual information packed in there.
Okay.
If it's a lie, if it's not actually increasing our understanding, then no, it's not.
If it's not actually increasing our understanding.
Correct.
But okay. But the 6 million is not increasing our understanding.
Yes, it is increasing our understanding.
No, but it's making us more confused because we don't know the actual number.
No, that's not making, because only an idiot hears 6 million Jews and is like, oh, it was 6,000,000. Only an idiot would ever say that. Only someone who is completely incapable of understanding that the information has a limit to how exact it is would ever interpret it that way. Which is precisely how people who want to disprove the Bible interpret it. They, like, If it says 40 years, it must be 40 years, not 40 years and 1 month. It could not have been 39 years and 6 months. It must have been exactly 40 times 365. It's like, you're an idiot.
Okay. So, if liberty can be taken with the text,
No liberty is taken with the text. That's not liberty. That's
Why?
just trying to communicate. Because when I talk to you and I say, hey, Trey, I'll talk to you tomorrow, right? That doesn't mean within 24 hours.
Okay.
And it never meant that. And there was no... Here, whatchamacallit gives you a good example of this.
Wittgenstein.
Vervaeke. Vervaeke gives a very good example of this. He says, you're walking down the street, and somebody walks up to you. Somebody in a car pulls up next to you and says, I'm out of gas. And I say, there's a gas station down the street. Right? So what exactly was communicated there? When he says I'm out of gas, he's not saying, are you guys there?
I'm there.
Okay. When he says I'm out of gas, he's not saying that he's out of gas. He means the car that he's in is out of gas. And when he says he's out of gas, he doesn't actually mean that he's completely out of gas. He means he only has a little bit of gas, and he needs more gas. And when I say there's a gas station down the street, I mean one that has petroleum, right, for a car. I don't mean natural gas, and I don't mean that it's close. It's a Costco where he has to have a membership, and I don't mean right. Yeah. So when you communicate, you actually communicate.
Right.
Right. And when the Bible is trying to communicate, it is trying to communicate truths.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay.
I agree with you.
What are we arguing about?
I don't know where to go. Because I feel like you're gonna. Okay, I'm gonna pose you a question. I say I don't believe the Exodus happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my system remains the same. I say I don't really care if the Exodus happened. In fact, I don't even think it happened. I don't even think whether the Exodus happened in the way that you describe matters to me. I care about the rituals, and he walks along the life same as it ever was. And they have someone who says, no, I do believe in the Exodus. And I actually believe that it was the 6,000 number. But he isn't able to do the rituals. He isn't able to do anything like that. What do you think about those two men?
They sound like two men. What do you want me to think?
Okay. Well, it seems that the first person, right, is actually applying the concepts of the tradition. And it seems as though this person is making statements and he's asserting that he is constructing a faith that is able to work through modernism.
Okay. You realize that I think the judgment of God is what matters.
Right.
So it's the judgment of God that matters. Of those men.
I mean, I guess I can't really that's a concept that I can't really know the answer to, so.
What God's judgment is? Yeah, lest judge not that lest you be judged. Again, you can't, like, you're giving me hypotheticals about what various people do, as opposed to talking about what you actually are trying to understand in your own life.
That I think that there is a conviction that I can accept that trying to say the events in the Bible happened is a fruitless effort, and it's rather just to, like, go to liturgy.
Okay, so do that.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to argue with, this metamodernism stuff.
No, like, that is not meta-modern. That you did not explain why you think any of that. Why do you think it's like, what is the epistemology by which you decided that you should go to liturgy and you shouldn't care about whether the Bible is true?
Okay, so I believe that I approach the world, and I believe that I am somebody who trusts the world, and
What do you mean trust the world?
well, I have no reason. I have no reason to doubt my senses.
You have no reason to doubt your senses?
You completely disregard my senses.
Completely disregard your senses. Oh, yeah. I don't think anybody says you should completely disregard your senses.
Well, a solipsist would.
Okay, we're not solipsists.
Right. I'm just saying.
What does that have to do with anything? Like, again, Trey, you
Yes.
didn't explain to me. Okay, you're going to go to liturgy. Why are you going to liturgy?
Why am I going to liturgy? Yes. I would say probably because of the work of. I think you're just gonna call BS on this. I'll probably say because of the work of David Sloan Wilson. Because at the end of the day, that I am an evolutionary being, and I want to have, like, the most successful evolutionary path, and religion is the most successful evolutionary path.
Who's David Sloan Wilson? The guy that whatchamacallit worked that Sam just talked to?
Not the one you just talked to, but he is the evolutionary biologist.
Oh, that Sam talks about. Okay, so what made you believe that?
What made me believe that? I guess I trust institutions.
Oh, so this is why you keep on going back to institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trusting institutions is a really bad idea, Trey.
I don't know how we wouldn't. Like, I don't know how we wouldn't trust institutions. I don't know what I would do. The internet that we're using is literally, like, created by institutions. It's managed by institutions.
So, like, yeah. So this is why I talk about securing our distributed cognition and looking and trying to find people who are worthy of that trust. That's actually by trying to see what is true in the world. Not like, I trust Rabbi Breitowitz more than I trust Paul Vanderklay, let's say, right? Because I have tried to see what is true in the world, and I find that he speaks more wisdom than Paul Vanderklay does. Because unlike a meta-modernist or a postmodernist, I actually believe there's actual real truth in the world. It matters whether or not when you hit compile on a program, it actually functions. It matters when you turn on your car, whether your car actually turns on and goes.
but those are points on functions, not what is true. So like a compiler,
What is true is a function of what is a function of functioning.
like a compiler is making semantic statements. Like you can't really say like an if statement is like you can. I'm saying you could say it's true, but what you're using is like a.
You're using a whole different. Now
Boolean
you're
idea.
talking about a whole different type of truth.
All right, I want to address this Greece comment. It says, and how do you discern which religion is the most evolutionary fit? I don't think you can do that, but you can at least have good guesses. That's just like saying I can't understand which religion is correct.
Hello, Chazi. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Trey, I'm looking forward to seeing you soon,
Looking forward to see you, Hezzy.
where we could put all this discussion to bed. And I can give you the real secrets. The real secrets,
Yeah.
Jacob.
The real secrets.
The real secrets.
But
Or
Trey,
all
I mean,
full of THC.
I think
I'm getting.
I mean,
You go, Hezzy.
I think Jacob and I are. I mean, I'm not exactly sure what I said that Jacob completely disagreed with when I was trying to agree with him, but I mean, you like as far as what Dumpsy's trying to do with this meta modern move. I said this in the past. I think Andrew didn't like this either, but and it's not necessarily what I believe. It's just I fill my toolkit with options of. Let's say I did find out that some of the 5 books were written by someone else and compiled at a later stage, or some elements with biblical criticism that make it very difficult. So there are those who.
Oh, he's gone. Since you're a redhead, your best chance of survival is becoming a Levite. Okay, you can't be taking shots at my hair. I've experienced that my whole life. Grim, you better come up. If you're gonna call me a redhead and you're gonna make fun of, talk about my hair, you better.
I think it's hilarious that you talk about evolutionary advantage and you don't want to have your own kids.
Well, I'm a
That's
redhead.
just
so,
hilarious.
Well, then, I am a redhead, so I don't want to really be passing.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like that's the funny part. Like you talk about evolutionary like stuff, and it's like, yet you're not gonna have any kids. Like, what?
Well, I didn't say that.
So you're actually going to impregnate someone with your genes? Hallelujah!
Jacob. Sometimes you ask questions that just are a bit weird. That's all.
Why is that weird?
It is. You don't have to be as descriptive.
What?
Having kids is sufficient enough. Like you can't just have kids without doing those actions, right? I never heard that unless I'm like married.
Okay. So because I mean, it sounds to me like you have some, I don't know, some weird plan about like, I don't know, adoption and that somehow being your kids or something.
Well, I would have said that.
What?
I would have said that.
I have no idea. I'm just clarifying.
You redheads invented racism, so we stopped making it about hair color, bro. I have power over this channel. Okay, don't get on my bad side, Grim. Either you come on here and you call me a redhead to my face, or like, what are you gonna do?
You are a redhead.
No, but you got to say it to my face, okay? First, he has to change himself to something approved by the Shadow Monarchy. I have changed myself to be. Oh, mate. Yeah, no, I've been approved by the Shadow Wizard Money Gang. That's what I've been approved by. We casting spells. Ain't that right, Andrew?
It's funny because not just his hair, his face is getting red too. It's like.
Why not?
Whew. That hurt a little bit. But I feel okay. I've been on sidetracks, and I'm going to ask the same question. The hypothetical that the Jew is in in 17th century Germany, I feel that I'm also in. And so either I just say, you're right. You're right, German professors. You are right. Yeah, I can't beat you at your game, right? But, and you know what? I accept your propositions. But I believe it's beneficial, and that's what I'm going to say. Oh, that's his back.
Hello, Kelly.
And that's what I was trying to say.
Amen.
What were you trying to say?
I'm joking. That you could have it with some limitation, and Jacob, this is what I think Trey was alluding to when you said it's not it's not 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust, but the number is they're trying to communicate something. He would argue that if that number is not specific, right? So like you're picking and choosing when numbers are specific and when numbers are not specific, right? When you're trying to learn a halacha from a specific verse, then the number is extremely important, right? It's 10 commandments. It wasn't 11 commandments, but
How is that halachically relevant?
what's halachic relevant? What do you mean if you're counting? Okay, with your how many pigeons do you bring to sacrifice? Is it 2? Is it 1? Is it 5? Is it 4? Their weights, right? The numbers mean something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
now,
yeah, and that's the difference. We say when it's la halacha, yeah, it matters. When it's not la halacha, it doesn't matter.
okay, so all my point was for Trey, because seemingly someone could come and say, like, 1 second, how are you differentiating between these numbers? So you just give an explanation right now, which is when there's a practical implication for it, then obviously there's a difference. Now I would just say again, as far as like the meta-modern flex, there have been Orthodox rabbis in the past that I saw Rabbi Malot was having like conniptions about, who did try to integrate some sort of biblical criticism into their interpretation and reading of the Torah. And
I don't think Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid was trying to integrate 18th century.
no, he wasn't. But Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid and Rashbam were noting things like Rabbi Yehuda HaChassid comes and says that prophets added some things later on, that David himself added some stuff later on. Now, the reason he's doing that, and I believe, is at that time he is stretching as far as he can with his knowledge and the information in front of him and the theological information in front of him to see where the boundaries are. And I think in today's day and age, when we are reading, just like when we look at sciences or just like we look at new developments and we look back in our text that we believe is divine, and we try to understand where can we extrapolate from this and learn for the future. So I think that conversations with regards to biblical criticism and scientific and historical integration with the Torah, you could see that some rabbis were doing a little of that in smaller versions. Does that mean now we have to wholesale accept everything that people said? No. A lot of archaeology and a lot of the biblical criticism, definitely from the 1800s, have shown to be not as rigorous or scientific as they wanted to be. And there's many holes in a lot of their theories. That doesn't mean we as Jews have to, and Orthodox or religious observant Jews have to shy away or be scared of this. We do have to address it carefully, and as of course, l'chol zman va'et. This is not a discussion, right, that I have with my children right now, but it is something that I have to consider at some point to integrate. And that's why I am a fan of what Dempsey was talking about, his toggling, or it's good to have a toolkit which allows you to, if need be, if you're dealing with biblical criticism, to put on different goggles or a different toggle, which allows you to even process that scientific information through a religious lens.
I really have to listen to this discussion because, like, I cannot tell if you guys are representing what he's saying, or you're reading what you want into what he said.
I think I'm representing what he said. I mean, again, he's doing it in a Christian context, and that's like a lot of times when it falls down to who's Jesus. My attitude is like, no one, move him aside, and then go to the source, to Judaism, and you're good to go. But and in his conversation with Sam Tiedemann, I commented with like timestamps over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm to it.
Look at my comment. He replied to my comment, and I feel like that explains what we're talking about.
Bill, you're done with it? Okay, I'm going to come on in a second. I'm going to ask you some questions about. Thank you for reading that so nicely.
You did a good job. Whoever read that thing so nicely.
He did. He was reading about the patience, the great patience of Hillel in the Talmud.
Nice.
Anyways, Trey, we could discuss this more in length. I don't know what. Again, I don't know what Rabbi Mola was specifically hating about what I was saying, but
You said that it's possible that parts of the Torah were not given by Moses.
I know he first said no, then he said, "Oh wait, there's the exception that we all know about, which is the last few verses." And then
Right.
all I'm saying is that within
No, and hold on. That exception that we all know about doesn't mean that it's like the authorship is still Moses.
First of all, let's just take one step back. Even that, the fact that at some point we realized, or the tradition was okay integrating the opinion that Moses didn't write those last verses, even that had pushback, right? Some people said like, no, that's also heresy. That's also nonsense. And then it made.
Well, hold on. Who said that something in the Talmud is heresy?
I didn't say that something in the Talmud is heresy. There are people that thought that is completely wrong.
Completely wrong is different from heresy.
You're right. Well, and that's actually not so true, because if you're completely wrong about saying something, this goes back to the 13 principles of faith, right?
There's a difference between error and heresy.
Okay, and I'm saying is, as things developed, there are other legitimate sources of wisdom, other sages of ours, okay, that have come and had similar opinions. Now, at no point did any of them come and say, guess what? Everything is redacted and everything was changed. No one went that far, but they did go further than just those few lines. And my point is, taking that, armed with that, and armed with tools like a progressive revelation, that in theory could give some protection for someone that is theologically nervous, which is, how do I look at my Bible in modern times? And you realize there has, and there was, and there will be conversation which allows more wiggle room in understanding these topics. That doesn't mean that Moses isn't still the author. And like I said, my red line is revelation at Sinai. Now, some
and how did you choose that red line?
Because all those people were there, and that's just how it's. No other stories like that. No other story for the other religions offers that kind of interpretation and story, that God is coming and giving this Torah to its people, its revelation to its people.
And why is that a standard?
Why is that the standard?
Yes.
Because it's very, very hard to refute.
According to what? So your logic, your whether you understand it is where we get whether or not, like, that is the standard in Judaism.
One second. Is the standard of me forgiving someone? How would I forgive someone if it's not happening in my own mind? Am I the standard?
Well, apparently you are the standard.
But I'm saying, if you do perform commandments, who's doing them? You or the community? You are the person in the conversations between you and God, right?
So yes, obviously, ultimately, it's between you and God, right? It's not, but
So you're asking me what's my standard to come and say that, like, from my understanding, it's impossible to refute. That's why I believe in it. I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
how people make many decisions in their life every day. The reason I pray and the reason I do all those things is because my faith in God and my relationship with Him. If you ask me, like, from a historical point of view, what makes you feel like this is true, aside from the emotional and psychological effects that I have growing up Jewish, would be that I believe that there was a revelation event in Sinai. That's as abstract as I'm willing to go, which is like how many people were there, who was there, what exactly they said. That really boils down to my faith, my practices, and like those are, like, I'm having the discussion right now, which is how much biblical criticism I'm willing to accept, yada yada yada. With regards to what my starting point is, there was a revelation.
Okay, so I've told this story about 10 billion times, and I actually wrote it out on Twitter eventually, in full length, which is about what happened when I my first real experience with the Gemara was, and I went and I actually found it. It was in Makot, right? Which was when I realized that, oh, either I can rely on my understanding, or I can have faith that the Jewish tradition actually has knowledge that is beyond my capacity to understand. And that taught me a humility towards the rabbis that I did not have before, and which I believe is absolutely essential to being an Orthodox Jew.
I would agree with that, and I think that's what and I would say I don't know this for sure, but at the end of the day, Rabbi Malad has less freedom that I have expressing myself on this channel, for example. And Rabbi Malad needs to be careful with what he says publicly and what he says and the things he's learning, right? So, like, I mentioned something that he responded, citation, right? He's like, why are you just throwing something out there? Like, if you're going to say something like that, I need to know where that's from. And that's totally fair, and it's totally fine. And I also mentioned this in the citation that, guess what? Rav Moshe Feinstein gave like a tremendous amount of pushback to that opinion of Rav Yudah Hasid and the Rashbam, because he's saying, like, this is like, in a certain sense, also you're opening up Pandora's box over here. These are, making a claim like that where you could accept biblical criticism, or that there's not necessarily one author, or you're casting down on that, is not something.
Hold on, I have to. So, what exactly happened with Rav Moshe? Because I have a very hard time believing Rav Moshe was critical of the Rashbam.
I gotta go to bed. Good night.
Good night.
What was happened with Rav Moshe Feinstein?
Yeah. Like, what exactly did he say about the Rashbam?
I will give this. You might even find it in Rabbi Yehuda Hasid. We might even find it on Wiki. Let's see. Give me a second, and then I gotta go father my kids. Rabbi Yehuda Hasid. Yehuda Hasid ביקורת המקרא. פירוש התורה לרבי יהודה החסיד, okay? Okay, there's something about it. I'm reading in English, but I'll translate. They cause a storm in the Haredi world based because of pressures by rabbis. For example, Rav Moshe Feinstein, the book publisher had to take off the books from were erased.
We lost you for a bit, Fezzi.
It said that pressure from the Haredi community grew, specifically from Rav Moshe Feinstein, and then the publisher had to remove all the books from the stands and republish them without those controversial comments.
Without the controversial comments of the Rashbam?
The controversial comments of Rabbi Yehuda Hachasid, who quotes the Rashbam.
I don't know who Rabbi Yehuda Hasid was.
You don't know who? I'm sorry, what was?
Rabbi Yehuda Hasid.
Rabbi Yehuda Hasid, he was part of like the Ashkenaz group. I'm sure you can find him online, obviously.
Was he a Rishon?
No. He's later on. He's like around like.
Rav Moshe can argue with a Rishon, with a Nachron.
Yeah, so no, I'm just saying he can't argue with him. My point was being that, like, I mentioned that just to be fair. It's not like
and if this is just a quote of the Rashbam that we have from an Acharon, like it's not an actual, like, that's different.
No, he's a lot of good pushback. My point is that conversation that I'm having is not in a vacuum. There are and my point mentioning Rashbam or Rabbi Yehuda Hasid is just those aren't people like it's not like I gave you a name of my friend's dad in school and he has this opinion, right? I'm saying it's opinions that and my point is it's to poke and to show that Judaism was dealing with this. Chazal was trying to deal with concepts like this that were difficult for them. That's it. All right, I gotta go, Father.
Go, Father.
Take care, boys.
I think I'm gonna go too, unless Grim wants to join. Of course, where Grim is, it's like in the middle of the night, and Grim should probably be asleep. Are you gonna join Grim or not? I don't think Grim likes you.
Me?
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know why.
That's the only reason I can imagine Grim not joining the chat is he doesn't like you.
Oh. Skills.
Can you imagine any other reason why Grim would not join? I can't.
Maybe he doesn't like you.
Oh, damn. Grim, do you not like me? I think he's probably gone already.
Mm-hmm.
We should be gone already. I should go to sleep. I'm going to end this stream.